Peace, and blessings. Today is August 1st, 2022. I am Birthmama Sekesa, a community midwife here serving the metro Atlanta area. And this is the first day of World Breastfeeding Week. And I wanted to take some time to share a page or two from my new book. This book I just released this year. I'm very proud of it. This book was a long time in the making. As a matter of fact, let me take these off for a second because I only need them to read. Okay. So, this book was a long time in the making. Love and Lactation, Breastfeeding Essentials, Practice Patience and Persistence. I actually started this book, I want to say in 2016, right when I stopped working in lactation clinic. I actually worked in lactation clinic. I started out working for WIC as a breastfeeding counselor, a breastfeeding, we were called peer counselors. So I started there as a breastfeeding counselor. I got my CLC, Certified Lactation Counselor certificate, and went on to, in 2013, and went on to actually hold clinic in several different offices here in Metro Atlanta area. I was running lactation clinic for two midwifery practices and two OB practices from 2013 to 2016. And then when I stopped, I just had a plethora of information in my head. And that's when I decided to write a book. I was like, oh my goodness, this is a lot of information. I knew that I didn't want to continue to do lactation work professionally in that capacity, not insofar as running a clinic, but because I knew midwifery was my continuous journey. But again, so much information in my head that I had gained from all the years of serving and working with hundreds of families. I used to say I've seen more titties than a titty bar. I totally have seen my share of breast and breastfeeding issues. So you get a lot of information condensed in this easy read version. The catalyst to me finishing this book actually was a dear friend of mine's and one of my very first birth assistants. Her name was or is Yolanda Kadima, and she also is affectionately called Shiphrah. And she actually transitioned in 2020. She was the first Black birth worker that we know of, or that I know of, in Metro Atlanta area to transition from maternal mortality. And her story is so impactful because this sister, again, she was a student midwife working with me. She was also an IBCLC, which is an international board certified lactation consultant. She ran lactation clinic for a pediatric office. She was a mother of several children. Her story is phenomenal. And actually, at the beginning of this book, this particular book, Love and Lactation, is dedicated to her. This is an exclusive edition. There are only 200 copies. Right now, it's probably about 125 copies remaining of this exclusive edition. And in this particular edition, we have a dedication from her husband. As you can see here, Armand Kadima holding one of their beautiful little babies. She birthed twins in 2022. In July of 2022, and a few days thereafter, she transitioned from a severe hemorrhage and organ failure. So her story is very touching. It kind of turned the community upside down. It rooted me heavily, even more so, in advocating for Black maternal health, which is why I stand so rooted and firmly, even to date, as a Black midwife exclusively serving Black families here in the metro Atlanta area. So, this one is to you, and I'll be repeating that most likely because this week, my intentions, and I say that, very loosely because I am a midwife and on call for several mamas this month. But yeah, I will be on call. I'm sorry, my intentions is to read. Um, this book every day this week, a page or two from this book. And so hopefully you will find um, information in here that is helpful to you in your breastfeeding journey. So, without further ado, let's get to it. So, tonight, I actually want to read about a part of the book that I felt was very necessary. It's dealing with the environmental um, effects of non breastfeeding. And so I wanted to take a different spin on my book. Some of the breastfeeding books that I've read and I'm familiar with throughout the years, for one, let me start by saying there are so few breastfeeding books written by Black women. As a matter of fact, there are so few childbirth education books written by Black women. If you research it, I think I'm like one in less than a dozen breastfeeding books that's written by Black women. I was only actually able to find about seven or so. So I feel very proud of that, and hoping that my voice reaches into my community and you all again can find something of value from this book. But my approach I wanted to take a different spin on it and really lean into the effects of not breastfeeding, because I believe that we all now know the narrative breast is best, right? We hear it, it's been coined on so many different slogans and t shirts and websites. Breast is best, right? And then we also understand that, breastfeeding is the healthiest alternative. However, I think we don't fully grasp the gravity and the understanding of what happens when you choose not to breastfeed. Um, this particular segment really just is to lift you up and give you knowledge. I understand that some women struggle with breastfeeding. As I said, I ran clinic for several years. I know that breastfeeding can be a struggle for some women. At the same time, I'm hoping that the information I provide in this book just gives you that extra nudge to encourage you to steadfast, because formula is man made and it is unnatural. And we have to accept that whenever we do unnatural things, they're going to be um, consequences. They're unnatural consequences that can sometimes result from that, right? And I think that goes kind of under the radar because we don't want to hurt feelings. We don't want to make anybody think that that we're judging them, or that they're less than in any capacity because of their choice not to breastfeed. However, that being said, at the end of the day, the choice is yours. I'm pro-choice in all aspects. At the same time, you should understand the gravity of your choice. All right. So here we're going to just talk about tonight. Again, we want to touch base on environmental impacts of not breastfeeding. All right. Okay. So breastfeeding is considered the most environmentally friendly food for all mammals. It generates zero waste, zero greenhouse gases, and has no water footprint. Breast milk essentially does not require farming, packaging, shipping, storage, or heating. Zero prep time is required. It is ready to use immediately from the source. On the contrary, when we consider the milk alternative, infant formula, it has an astounding environmental impact and a heavy carbon footprint. It has been noted as an unsustainable global feeding method. My book. No one is talking about the environmental impacts of the baby formula industry. Carly Casella from July 2018. This is an excerpt that I took from uh, uh, an article I found online. Now consider the alternative. Formula milk requires farming, storage, pasteurization, drying, cooling, packaging, and shipping. Experts say that every kilogram of powdered infant formula requires roughly 4,000 liters of water. Not to mention the fact that powdered milk comes from cows, and the cattle industry is the second largest contributor to methane emissions, a heat trapping gas around 30 times more potent than CO2. CO2s, carbon dioxide. When we observe the production path, so end of quote, my bad. When we observe the production pathway of infant formula, it becomes apparent as to why this method of infant feeding is globally unsustainable. Let us begin with the dairy cow. A farm raised dairy cow requires over 20 pounds of cattle feed plus supplements and water daily to produce milk. Many dairy farmers will mix recycled candy such as jelly beans, chocolate bars, and gummy candies into their cattle feed to offset the cost of corn to make the milk sweeter. Cattle farmers struggle with another quote, my bad. Cattle farmers struggle corn with record corn prices are feeding their cows candy instead. CNN Money New York. This is an article. That's right, candy. Cows are being fed chocolate bars, gummy worms, ice cream sprinkles, marshmallow bites, hard candy, and even powdered hot chocolate mix, according to cattle farmers, bovine nutritionists, and commodities dealers. It has been it has been a practice going on for decades and is a very good way for producers to reduce feed costs and to provide less expensive food for consumers, said Kai Fanning, a livestock nutritionist with Great Plains Livestock Consulting Incorporated in Ingle, Nebraska. End of quote. Once the cow produces the milk, then it is removed via a pumping system, blended with numerous other cows' milk, and stored waiting for pasteurization. After pasteurization, the milk is in separate to further processed to separate 2% low fat, whole milk, powdered milk, etc. The powdered milk is most commonly used by infant formula companies as a primary ingredient in formula. These companies blend the powdered milk with about 20 to 30 other ingredients, then package and ship it to retailers. All of these methods require some energy source to operate, such as electricity, gas, and or water. Once received by the retailer, the infant formula is then sold to the consumer who adds water, hopefully it's purified water, to it, shakes it well, and feeds it to their baby. Even the ready to feed formula brands require similar preparations before shipping. And in here, I also have a label that kind of breaks down some of the ingredients that's in, I think this was a label from Similac. And it just kind of lists out many of the ingredients. And if you notice the very first ingredient here, it says 35.5% corn maltodextrin, my bad. That's a sugar, so this is a list ingredient from Similac baby formula. And yes, it is predominantly sugar, 35.5% sugar, corn maltodextrin. All right, there is ongoing, seemingly dismissive conversations between developed and industrialized countries regarding greenhouse gases, global warming, farm fresh, and carbon footprint. Excuse me. Global warming, fresh water, and carbon footprints. These terms, in short, describe the negative impacts that we as humans are having on our planet with machinery, technology, and unsustainable lifestyle practices. Our reckless behavior with industrialization is causing long lasting and, in some cases, irreversible effects to our environment in terms of the quality of air we breathe, the foods we eat, and the drinkable water we need to live. We are poisoning the air with CO2 emissions from automobiles, factories, and farms, overheating our atmosphere with radiation and microwaves, contaminating and overusing our freshwater reserves, deforesting the land, killing the animals, and genetically altering the foods. The environmental issues we are facing extend well beyond breastfeeding. However, the lack thereof is a direct reflection of humanity's blatant disregard for nature. or our interest in being a symbiotic part of the greater spectrum of life on this planet. We truly are living an unsustainable reality. So that's my book. Juicy. It continues. So I just really wanted to take a moment to speak to that very briefly. I know that was a hard punch and heavy hitter, as I mentioned at the closeout of that particular section. This isn't to say that because you're not breastfeeding or you choose not to breastfeed, that you're causing all these catastrophic events around the planet. It really is just to help us understand how every choice we make does impact our planet. Just breathe that in and breathe it out. So you can purchase my book. The link will be in the comment section below. My book goes on. There's just a small section that really touches base on subjects like that. We start out with some words of wisdom, why breastfeed, what's in the milk, listening to the experts, the do's and don'ts of breastfeeding, 5 tips to breastfeeding success, solutions to 9 common breastfeeding concerns, and dispelling 19 myths about breastfeeding. All in my book. Right now, this special edition is $25. As I mentioned, you can go to my website, www.loveandtouch.com. It will be in the comments below. And order this special edition book. All the proceeds from this book will go to the Kadima family. The goal is to raise $5,000 and give a donation to the Shiphrah Foundation. That link will also be in the comments below. I thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I hope that you learned something of value from this excerpt that I read tonight in my book. And I hope you take the time to purchase my book and read it. Thank you again. Have a good night. Peace and blessings.